Hey everyone, Laurel with GelMoment with Laurel, your independent distributor for GelMoment and nail technician. Today we're going to use the creativity set with a bunch of GelMoment colors to try and replicate a design that I already have on my left hand. So for those of you that don't watch, I do nail enhancements. I'm a nail technician, so this hand is nail enhancements, and it also does not have GelMoment colors on it, but I'm going to try and replicate it. We all see the posts with the Pintrest versus GelMoment, so I'm doing it basically in real time here. I did my one hand with completely different product, and I'm doing my left hand my right hand all with GelMoment. So you can see how close you can actually get it with GelMoment products. So I'm just using the mini file buffer to buff up my nail plate a little bit to make sure that there's no oil and that you are giving a little bit of adhesion, a little better adhesion for the gel polish to stick to the nail plate. And you want to make sure that you're not very aggressive, but that you get in every little nook and cranny, because if there's any oil or smoothness left on your nail plate, the gel polish could lift and come off of your nail. And then after you're done with the the buffer, then grab one of your cleansing pads, one of your cleansing pads, and you're just going to want to wipe off all of the dust, the debris, any oil residue that might be left on your nail plate. And honestly, most of the time where I see the lifting is on a free edge, so you want to make sure that you cap your nails, and right in the cuticle. So right in here you can see me kind of digging at my cuticle, so you want to make sure that that is all of your little white cuticle is taken off of the nail plate. There's sometimes a little bit of residue there. You just want to make sure that that's completely taken off, because if that lifts underneath your gel polish, well, then your gel polish is going to lift. So get it cleaned up as best as you can. Now, what we're going to use here to replicate this is a white. So I have Meet Me at the Chapel right here. You can use Lovey-Dovey, of course. It doesn't really matter what white you use as long as you have a white. And then I have chosen to use the Desert Rain to replicate the color on my index finger and middle finger. It seems to be pretty similar. So basically you're just dropping down the colors onto the palette. I have the Meet Me at the Chapel and the Desert Rain, and I'm going to mix those two colors together. But first I'm going to show you the brushes that we're going to use out of the creativity set. So first of all, we're going to use a flat brush. We're going to use that to apply the paint to the fingers with the mixed paint. Then we have the liner brush. We're going to make the marble effect with that liner brush. Then I have a fan brush, and that's going to help with the ombre effect. And then we have a petal brush to help with the flowers, and a dotting tool to help with the middle of the flowers and a couple of little dots. So to start off, I'm going to mix the paint, because you can see those three, they're kind of like a lighter brown. So I'm just going to take some of the brown, the Desert Rain, and I'm going to mix it into the Meet Me at the Chapel, which is the white. And I'm going to try and replicate this color. So it's just a matter of mixing just a little bit. So you want to take a little bit of brown and put it in. So now when I'm doing these tutorials, most of the time I keep my right hand specifically natural, so I can demonstrate the GelMoment products. and how healthy and well my right hand is with the GelMoment products. So I am a right-handed person, so when I'm doing these tutorials, they are all being done left-handed, which is definitely not my dominant hand. So it takes me a little bit longer to try to balance and get all of this stuff done. And guys, if I'm doing this with my non-dominant hand, you can definitely give it a go with your dominant hand. So as you can see, I'm using my pinky as a fulcrum. So it's basically, I'm using the pinky for balance to try and steady my hand to make sure that there's some nice even strokes. So basically, all I'm going to be doing is using this color, and I'm going to fast forward the video because basically it's just putting down the base colors, and I think I put down 3 coats of the base color, and then putting the base coat of the Desert Rain, which was just the straight Desert Rain. And then once that's being done, fast forwarding, we will move in with the design. So here is a good tip as well. If you tend to be a person that gets nail polish all over your skin, try using a smaller brush, like the Creativity Set flat brush that I was just using. You don't get as much polish, and it doesn't, it doesn't run down the side of the polish brush that's directly out of the bottle. So it definitely helps with mess. It's because you're only picking up a little bit. Now here I'm slowing down the video because I wanted to make sure that this is pointed out that you need to cap your nails. If you want your polish to last, capping your nails to make sure that all that dirt and oils and all of the other debris does not get in underneath the gel polish, in between the gel polish and the nail plate. So all of these nails are completely cured. They're cured each time I've done a full coat. And now I'm going to use the Desert Rain, and I'm going to bring that Desert Rain 3/4 the way up the nail plate towards the free edge. We're going to leave that uncured, and that is going to just prepare the nail for the ombre. So I'm going to put a little bit of the Guilty Soiree down on my palette here, and I'm going to use this Guilty Soiree for the tip of my nail plate, and then I'm going to do an ombre. Okay, so I'm just using the flat brush here because I'm using the Guilty Soiree. I actually put a little bit of the white in there as well, just to kind of give it a little bit more color instead of just the gold. And now I'm using a fan brush, and I'm going to give that an ombre. So I've got the Desert Rain at the bottom of my finger or close to the matrix. And then I've tipped the free edge off with the Guilty Soiree, and now I'm just ombreing those 2 colors together. When you're doing an ombre, it's good to do both sides. So you want to go from usually the lighter color into the darker color, and then you can bring the darker color into the lighter color. I always think that if you bring the lighter color back into the darker color, then the darker color doesn't overpower the lighter color. But that's just my theory. I don't really know if there's a thing to it. That's just my theory. So I've put my fingers in for a full cure after doing the ombre, and now I'm going to do a little bit of a whitewash. So basically what that is using a little bit of rubbing alcohol and then taking your white color and mixing it together. So it kind of gives a really, really translucent or almost transparent color on your nail plate. So the reason I'm doing this is kind of to, I guess, blend in the other fingers to give it a little bit of a cloudy marble kind of look. So I've applied that coat, and I find that it's a little too thick, it's a little too opaque for my liking. So I'm just dipping the brush back into the rubbing alcohol, and I'm dragging the brush down the nail plate, trying to thin out that color just a little bit more. Then once you have the sheerness that you like, then go ahead and pop that in the lamp for a full cure, depending on your lamp. Now we're doing the marble effect on the lighter nails. So there's so many different ways to marble. I've got a couple of different videos on marbling. This is another video. I don't know if I've done a video quite like this one before. So it depends on the kind of marbling effect that you're after. If you're not looking for really super thin lines and particular lines, you can, one of the most popular ways is just throwing polish down onto a palette, picking it up with a paintbrush, and then just dragging it down. It's the easiest way to marble. I find that it is the most, I don't know, simplest way of marbling, especially for beginners. It's not the first way that I learned how to marble, but I find it's more simplistic in just throwing down a bunch of colors, mixing them together, picking them up, and dragging them down the nail plane. I think the only way that you could not get it right is if you got polish all over your fingers, like your skin, but you know, that's what brushes and rubbing alcohol and cleansing pads are for, so not a big deal. Anyways, so what I just showed you was the rubbing alcohol. So I'm using the flat brush with the rubbing alcohol. So what's going to happen, your fingernails are already cured underneath, so the rubbing alcohol is not going to affect what's already cured. The lines that I've just put on with the liner brush of the brown, the Desert Rain, they're a little bit thicker with the liner brush. So what this flat brush is doing with the rubbing alcohol is it's kind of like pushing the gel polish and it's taking it away. So it kind of almost dissolves the gel polish and it moves it into thin lines. So, you know, play around with it and just see what you get. But the best way to achieve this is with a really nice flat brush. You know, one with a nice chiseled edge. So my suggestion to you is to pick up the Creativity set or get yourself a really nice liner brush and a nice flat brush to achieve this look. Okay, so that is ready for a cure now. So the next color I'm going to put on is the Guilty Soiree. So I'm dragging it mostly beside the lines that I've already created with the Desert Rain, but it doesn't have to be. I'm just doing it basically to show kind of, you know, a linear pattern, I guess, like, you know, if you were to break open a quartz stone or something, you would see the gold in the darker lines where the stone has separated. It's kind of what I'm achieving or trying to achieve, but there's no necessarily rhyme or reason on how to do it. It's entirely up to you and where you want to put your lines. Mostly random. There's really no pattern other than what it is that you like personally. And then again, you grab your flat brush and your rubbing alcohol and you do the same thing that you did with the Desert Rain, and you push the line around, move the lines around. You can make them nice and thin. You can put a separation in them. You can move them a little bit. You basically just have to play with the rubbing alcohol and the gel polish with the brush and just see what you can do. And then I am going to put the white. Now I put some stamping gel down because it's a little bit more opaque, so it's going to show up a lot better than just the just the white Meet Me at the Chapel. The Meet Me at the Chapel and the Lovey Dovey I find pretty translucent, so usually when I'm doing nail art, I always mix the white with the stamping gel. Now you don't want to use just stamping gel on its own because it's way too thick, so it's not going to move very well for you. That's why I like mixing it with the gel polish, because then it gives you the consistency that you're looking for, but the opaqueness of a stamping gel. So now I'm just grabbing some of the Raven's Kiss, the black, and I am just putting in very little, like barely no lines at all. I just want to give it that shadow depth, but I don't want to take away from the browns and the whites and creams that we've already done on the nail set. So it's just giving it a little bit of shadow. So again, very lightly, very minimal black lines. Then put it in the lamp for the full cure. And now we are finally at the accent nails, or the marble could be accent nails, or all accent nails really. So basically, just like with the marble, I'm mixing the gel polishes with the white stamping paint, the white, just to give it a little bit more opaqueness. As you can see, now I'm just looking at my design that I already have on my nails to make sure that I'm doing the same design. And with this petal brush, so the petal brush of the Creativity set is like it's kind of like a short, fat, rounded brush. There's only one in the set, so it's pretty easy to spot. But basically, you just push down on the edge of the brush and kind of give it a little bit of a flick, and you make almost a perfect petal. There's not much work that has to be done. The brush does most of it for you. So of course, when you're doing the flowers, you can put the flowers in any kind of design or pattern that you like. I've picked half of a flower for both, and then one full flower for both. So once you have the two, you can put that in for a full cure, and then you can come back, or not even for a full cure, 10 seconds is good enough, because you're just doing the nail art. Same with when you were doing the marble. Every time you swap colors out and you're doing a different color, you can just cure it for 10 seconds just so it doesn't move. It does not have to be a full cure. The only time you need a full cure is when you're covering, when you're doing a full coverage on your plate, on your nail plate. So for this, we just need to do flash cures until we're finished the design. Then once you're finished, then you want to make sure that you put your fingers in for a complete full cure before you put on any type of top coat. So just try to be as steady as you can, and that is a 5-petaled flower, so you might want to start out with 4 petals, so you have 2 across from each other. Then that way it's a little bit easier to lay out on your fingernail, instead of trying to figure out where all 5 petals would go. And then for the last touches, I'm using the Raven's Kiss on the flower. So I'm using the dotting tool. I'm using the biggest ball of this dotting tool. And I'm putting a nice good sized dot in the center of the flower petals. And then I'm going to give that a little flash cure. And then as soon as it comes out of the lamp with the flash cure, which is about 10 seconds, then I'm using the liner brush and I'm just lightly putting in, just like, really, I'm just putting on a line from the center of the flower and I'm dragging it out the middle of the petals. So it's kind of giving the petals a little bit of dimension, a little bit of shadow. And that's it, just one line, nothing fancy. It's giving it a little bit of shadow, a little bit of dimension. Then once I'm done with all of the shadowing, then I'm going to put it in for a flash cure. And the last final touch just before I put it in the lamp for a completely full cure before giving it a clear top coat is using the smaller end of the dotting tool, and I'm going to just give a trail of dots going from the back flower and then kind of going like large dots, and then I'm going to not apply as much pressure every time I put a dot in sequence, so that it ends up getting to be a smaller and smaller dot as it goes. Then we put it in for a full cure once we have the dots in place. Now, if you mess something up, it's okay. You just wipe it off because everything underneath is cured and you start all over again. So if your dots aren't perfect or if they end up melding into one dot, then just wipe it off and go ahead and restart and, you know, keep going, keep wiping it off until it's to where you want it. And to protect all of the nail art that you have just accomplished, you want to give it a nice top coat. Clearly Frisky is a fantastic clear top coat. If you're really worried about anything happening to it, you can always put 2 coats on. For me, 1 coat is plenty. A lot of people that I know like to put 2 coats on just to protect that nail art, but you know, I think 1's good as long as you have a good top coat. Maybe if you didn't have a good top coat, you might want to do 2, but clearly Frisky's very good top coat. Okay, so there you have it, guys. Oh, that was my husband. He's giving me the thumbs up or the A-OK symbol. So this is GelMoment, and that's your marble effect and your flowers. Looking pretty good. Not bad. They look really well. They look really good. I think that we did really good. There's a side-by-side of the enhancements and the GelMoment. I think we got pretty close. The color of the mixed colors off a little bit, but that was probably just more so due to mixing, and I didn't have a creamier color in the GelMoment series. So glad you joined me. I hope that I taught you something today, and if you enjoyed my video and you would like to see more, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.